Hi, so I am doing the design challenge of the self-adjusting networks and backwards propagation. So my narrative basis is that we're modeling a fantasy world problem using a self-adjusting flow network with backward propagation rules. So this is a world where there's a sudden zombie apocalypse happening when we're still in the COGS 300 classroom. And our first step will be try to design a self-adjusting flow network that can help the COGS 300 students survive, find, distribute, and manage life supplies. So the goal of this network then is to ensure the flow of life supplies such as food, water, and medical kits from the sources. So the sources from my initial brainstorming process would be the Hero Cafe, the open kitchen, vending machines, and the medical clinic to the sinks. The sink will be a COGS 300 classroom, a barricade checkpoint, and a safe house. So here it explains what the forward flow. Food, water, medical supplies will flow from sources to sinks. And one important thing is that it will also send a request for resources forward to the sinks as well. So for example, I'm at a barricade point and there are 3 scavenger members in that barricaded point. Then it will require a request the amount of life supplies that 3 people will need for one iteration of this network. So that information would also be sent forward towards the sinks. And then we can see what flows backwards. The backwards flow would be ideally the amount of resources that is required by the nodes. Also, it will also send humans/students as workers, scavengers to the barricades as well. So now I'm going to explain why does these things flow forward. So food, water, medical supplies, and tools are pretty obvious. We need these supplies to survive in this zombie apocalyptic world. And I want to talk about the request for supplies. So that is a very important information for the COGS 300 classroom, which is the management and distribution center, to know to allocate the amount of resources required for these single nodes. And it's also important for the self-adjustment rules later on, and I'll explain that later. And why does it flow backwards? So every role needs humans/workers to function. So in the barricade nodes, they will need scavenger members to find the life supplies needed. And also, the safe house would also need food, water, tools. The classroom needs food, water to supply the managers, the managing class in the classroom. And here is a initial sketch of the network. So the red places are the sources. So here you can see, let me grab a pencil. Here you can see this is open kitchen. These are the vending machines, these little circles, and here's the medical clinic, and here's the Hero Cafe. So the blue ones are the barricades, and they will send out scavengers to the red sources, and they will bring back food supplies, water, and medical supplies, etc. And the barricades will then transport the supplies they found to safe houses. Safe houses are occupied by people who are seeking temporary refuge or just transportation workers in there, because the safe houses will gather all the barricades in that area, and they will transport all of that supplies back to the COGS 300 classroom, which is the main management center. And here you can see all the barricade points will send the request for the supplies needed to the safe house. And the safe house will collect that data and combine the data with the requirement of their own. And they will then send a total requirement to the COGS 300 management center. So when the management center receives that data, it will see if they have enough resources to supply itself first, because there are people in the classroom, obviously. So if they will first ensure they have enough resources for themselves, then they will start fulfilling the requests for the safe house from the safe houses from a top-down order. So they will make sure that this will be fulfilled first, and then this part. And if there is enough, then yay, everybody's happy. But if there isn't enough resources for example, this barricade here, and this barricade's resources won't hold for that long, then this barricade would eventually die if there's not enough resources. So that is the node deletion mechanism. And also, on the contrary, if after distributing the request for all of the safe houses and there's still a surplus of supplies for that iteration, it will then check if that surplus is enough for sustaining this barricade, for example, for one iteration. Then it will go and create one more barricade node here, and that is the self-adjusting mechanism here. So the emergence effect is here. So if the surplus after distributing every safe house, the surplus is enough for sustaining this barricade for 1 day, then it will create a new barricade node here. So here are the more specific descriptions for each type of node. So the sources here, the open kitchen, the vending machines, medical clinic, they're pretty much what I just explained. And one thing to note, that only barricade nodes can send out scavenger teams to gather the resources from the above source nodes. So the safe houses, they cannot send out scavenger teams. They don't have that ability. And here you can see the barricades nodes. Yeah, there will be a number of people defending at this point, so there will also be the scavenger team. They need food, water, medical supplies, and tools to survive. So if a barricade node runs out of resources, the people will decrease, and when there's no people, the node will eventually vanish. And also, one thing to note here, there will be a limit to the amount of resources each barricade can hold. So for example, if there's too much resources in this node, it will just be wasted because they cannot hold that much amount of resources. And then we can look at safe houses. So this safe house here is an intermediate node used to collect all the supplies coming from the various barricade nodes in the area. It will have a significantly larger maximum amount of supplies it can hold. And also there will be people seeking temporary refuge here, and also the transportation workers who transports these supplies to the management center, the COGS 300 classroom. So they will consume food, water, and occasionally medical supplies if there are wounded students or workers. And then we can see the COGS 300 classroom. It receives all of the life supplies and also the supply requests from the nodes. And then they will manage and redistribute the supplies to them after they fulfill their own needs. So here is an example node for each type of sink here. So this is the barricade node. It will have the amount of food, water, and the number of scavengers, and also the amount of medical supplies and tool supplies. It will also have a request that will be later backwards propagated to the sink. Oh, sorry, forward propagated to the sink. Yeah, my bad. And here is the safe house in orange. So you can see survivors, food, water, medical supply, and also the request. And here, the management center, it will have all the supplies and a larger number of survivors. Here you can see are the weights for from the sources to the barricades. So I define it as this way. So hero here requires 0.5. And for example, the ability for one node to scavenge is 1 here. And the med requires 0.75. It means that it could at the same time go scavenge one more vending machine, which is 0.25 here. And for open kitchen, there's a lot of resources in there, so it requires 1.0. So all the scavenging ability will be required to go scavenge in the open kitchen. And here are the rules for creating new nodes and rules for destroying nodes. I explained that in the previous section, but here is a more specific, detailed version of that. So if the COGS 300 determines that there is enough surplus for example, this safe house here to survive one more iteration, it will then go and create a new safe house here. Here is a detailed version of the propagation network here. So you can see, let's zoom in here first. This is the open kitchen source. So here, this barricade node is responsible for scavenging this source. So it has 4 scavengers initially, and 10 food, 10 water, 5 medical supplies, 5 tools. For this first iteration, it will send all scavengers to this source, and it will bring back 20 food and 20 water. And this 20 food and 20 water will then go to the safe house. So, because remember, all of the supplies will go to the management center first, and they will be backwards propagated back to the nodes to help them survive. And also, it will send a request to the safe house as well. So there are 4 scavengers here. So each day they will require 10 food and 10 waters. And if they use, for example, any medical supplies or tools, it will also make that request and forwards propagated to the next level of nodes as well. So this safe house here is only connected to this barricade point, so it will be responsible for this barricade point only. So when it's propagating forwards to the COGS 300 classroom here, it will propagate first of all of the supplies that this node has gathered, and also the requests for supplies from this node, but also the request for supplies of the safe house itself. So it's addition of a request, and that total request will be sent to the COGS 300 classroom here, and later on it will be backwards propagated to this safe house as well. So the total combined requests for this barricade node and this safe house node. And here is a little messy, but basically it's 4 vending machine nodes, and that will be responsible by this barricade node. And you can see it got 6 food and 10 waters in total, and that will be sent to the bottom safe house here. And the medical clinic is responsible by this node, and this node is also going to this vending machine here. It will get and it will get 4 meds, 2 waters, and 3 tools in total. And these supplies will be then forwards propagated to the COGS 300 management center. And the request for these nodes will be sent to the safe house, which is 8 plus 8. And the safe house will then later combine its own request with this and send that to the COGS 300 management center. And that will let the COGS 300 center make the decision of sending the supplies backwards to the safe house, and the safe house will then send the supplies to each barricade node.